My main topic of research is more focused on public space, and it's more about how can we organize it and how can we use open spaces and also like public buildings. We're not concentrating so much on housing because it follows their own terms and regulations, and there are only few architects who are really thinking holistically about the whole city. And in Vienna we have a very special situation. More than 35% of the housing and a lot of libraries, market spaces, leisure typologies and buildings belong to the government. And so in my research we think about how can we reuse those public spaces and open it to new forms of use, and also how can we organize those spaces. For example, we have a lot of libraries. We have different types of libraries in Vienna. Like we have the big ones, like there are 3 or 4 big libraries in Vienna. And then there are a lot of social housing complexes have their own library. And those small libraries, they are completely empty, they are unused, because like you can lend the books over a digital interface, so those spaces became obsolete. But still, they are here, completely unused. And so we go into those spaces and open and process by building new ideas, and most of the time we combine our cooking or fabricating different stuff in order to get in a discussion, because when people are starting to build things, it's another way of communicating. You know, like those participatory projects, most of the time you just can vote for something. You can say, okay, I would like to have this one or this one, and at the end it's a very passive way. And so we try to start a new way of communication. And our idea is that we help the Austrian Republic to keep those spaces public and not to sell it, and to create a more quality open city. In my work, like, there are 2 very important key moments. Like one, it's about the digitalization of all our spheres in our lives, and for me it's like as big as the Industrial Revolution. So we are living in a moment of a complete change, and also like we are living in a very complex system, and the way now we are changing and the moment of change, we can use it for a very positive moment. And the other way is that, like in Europe, there's a big change also in society. The gap between poor and rich is getting bigger, and the middle class is vanishing. And so these are the 2 main areas I'm focusing with my work and I'm interested in. And so this comes together in the city and in architecture in a way. And by offering answers, may it be also in the way we design buildings, in the way we inhabit cities, in the way we meet, we can offer solutions to these changes. And so we really try to focus on a holistic approach. And also we say we're focusing on in capitalistic systems, growth is a very important factor, and growth is limited by our resources and environment problems, but we try to focus on a qualitative growth. And there's also the question, how can you measure those things? And so we also have to focus on theory, on publication, and really get involved in those broader processes. For me, the discussion about the commons, like may it be water, may it be air, or may it be a city, because also like the city, it was built by millions of people over a very long time span, so it doesn't belong exactly to one person. And it's also like, for example, the historic center is more valuable than maybe the outskirts. And so like people who own this center, they can make a better business. So I think a very important thing in architecture and city planning is that there are enough common spaces in the city, also in the valuable places, and that they are open for everybody for its use. So I would like really to foster and like to push forward the discussion about what is public, what is private, what can be possessed and what not. If all the apartments now are getting smaller and smaller because all the people move in the city, so why don't we make, for example, the best places, the most beautiful places as a common resource? Like you can own those spaces and maybe you possess a public ticket for those spaces. I mean, there's the concept of public transportation. You buy a ticket and you can use any transportation. And the same could work with spaces which are owned by the government, and you can you can use them for a certain time span. You can also use it exclusively, and you can reserve it over internet. Like this is an idea we are really trying to push forward. So if you're living in a very small apartment, you have like this card, and you can rent a space, and it's a very beautiful space. And you can cook there, invite your friends, for example, and use those spaces, and afterwards you leave it, you clean it, and another person can use this beautiful place. And so this distribution gets more fair and more open in the city.